Now let's trace the full length of the tibia, or the shin bone. Now, as I have said in an earlier video, to me the leg can be seen as a sort of pyramid because there's one bone on top, the femur, and then it splits into two, and then it splits into essentially 5 rays and a multitude of bones in the foot. So you can think of it as a wide base getting narrower up to the femur head. So now we're looking at the top of the tibia, which is the only bone that really connects into the knee joint. Now that is not truly accurate to say because there are ligamentous and fascial connections that are going to connect the fibula into the action of the knee. But in terms of bone-to-bone joint, we're really just looking at the tibia and femur. So we've felt the tibial plateau already. So now we're going to feel for this front edge of the shin. So going back to the tibial plateau, just below the knee, go ahead and find that edge and just trace down it all the way down to the top of your foot. You might do this sitting if it's not comfortable to bend over, or you might do this standing or lying down even as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace the tibial plateau with my hand. So I've got a horseshoe around the tibial plateau, and then I'm going to basically grip the 2 shin bones with my thumb and 4 fingers. So my thumb is actually reaching back into here. Depending on your body type, you may or may not be able to do this, but I'm reaching at least for this general area and feeling that there is bone under there. Now you can probably feel that there's a sort of flat surface that angles off outwards, right? And that is the inside of this shin bone. So if I start at the tibial plateau and trace down that angle of the shin bone, I will find that my hands naturally rotate inwards to the center of my legs, down to this protrusion at the ankle joint. Now if I'm touching the outside protrusion, I'm actually going to be touching the fibula, which is the outer leg bone, and we'll look at that later. So now we just want to think about the inside down to that inside bump of the tibia. Now the tibia is basically the weight-bearing bone, which makes sense when you look at the build of it. Of course, the femur is just resting on it. And the fibula, the other bone, is going to sort of make adjustments and help you to balance. But the main weight is going to be traveling down through the tibia, something like 80 or 90%. So after you've traced the tibia, imagine now the weight of your body, right, the whole upper body, down through the sacrum and SI joints, pelvic halves, femurs, and then the femurs resting on the tibia. And imagine the tibia. In my mind, I see basically the skeleton, who's now looking at me. I see basically the skeleton, fix his skull. And I've sort of dimmed out all the other bones, but I'm just seeing the tibia as bright white. And I can rock a little bit and see how that tibia can move and wobble, but that it's distributing the weight straight down into the top of my foot. So see if you can release any holding patterns and allow that weight to travel efficiently through the tibia. You can imagine doing that inward tracing spiral. Now I've heard people say opposite, but when I look at a tibia, and I've held a real tibia, it has an inward spiral to me. So if you remember, the femur had an inward spiral. I feel that the tibia also has an inward spiral, which makes sense simply in the fact that it goes to the inside of the leg. I've heard different people teach other things. Either thing is fine, but this is what I'm going to go with, that there is an inward spiral of the bone and an inward spiral of the lower leg bone. So feeling that the tibia rests down onto the top of the foot and does have a little bit of that inward spiral, or at least whether or not the longitudinal axis is spiraled, that the end of the bone ends on the inside of the foot. See if that can help your balance. Just that image. So I'm really imagining the inside malleolus of the ankle, that bump at the bottom, the tibia. So now touch the bottom bump and touch the tibial plateau. That gives you a sense of that length. Do that on both legs. And just imagine the tibia as the porous and highly efficient weight-bearing system that it is. If you enjoyed this video, sign up for the InBody Space newsletter and share the link with a friend. You can also find original content on Facebook and Instagram.